Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this week's episode on My Line Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Crone, and I have Elyse Archer here with us this morning. And Elyse, I'm super excited for you to dive a bit more into your story and for everybody to get to hear more about you. I was doing a little research on you and got into your YouTube and looking at your
Mhm.
website. And yeah, I know that there's so much more for me to uncover and discover, and I think we will in this episode. But what I found I really resonated with, it sounds like you and I are really interested in a lot of the same things. And I believe from what I've gathered so far is we got to this place from different stories, but the desire for more. So
Mm.
why don't we first check in? Where are you calling in from, and what are you grateful for today?
Oh, I love that question. I have my private clients answer that at the start of every call. So I am coming in from Maine today. So we have been here close to 2 years. My husband's in medical school, so
Amazing.
it was a whirlwind move up here from the southern part of the United States, but it's been really fun. And I'm always grateful for so much. Today, especially, I'm like really grateful for my family. We've got a baby on the way in about a month, and then I've got two little boys, one of which is turning two tomorrow. And so
Wow.
it's just fun and wild, and mom life plus entrepreneur life is always exciting. But it's such a good reminder of what really matters in life. And even just this morning, sending them off to school, seeing their little smiles on the way, it grounds you and it really does remind you of what matters, which can be easy sometimes to get distracted from in all the just the hubbub of the day, right?
Mhm.
Grateful for my littles today. Yeah.
I love that. I'm originally from the east coast of Canada in Nova Scotia, just above Maine. That's
Oh,
where I was
oh
born,
yeah.
raised, grew up. It's where my parents still live. So, yeah, East Coast charm for
I
sure.
love that. Yeah. Yeah. It's been a journey. I'm a Southern girl through, and it's been such an adventure to come up here and I really just like support my husband as he follows his dream. But I'm liking it and it's good and it's like family friendly, which
Mhm.
the older I get, the more I care about. So
Yeah.
it's been really fun. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I heard in one of your podcasts that you were talking about that this was a goal of yours to grow your business so that you could retire your husband so he could
Mm.
go to medical school and live out his dream. And I think that is so amazing. It just shows the support and dedication that's there and what it takes to truly be a team. The work that you're in, you're a part of your brand is She Sells. And let's just start right there. Sales, women, sales, entrepreneur life. Were you always in sales? Like when you graduated high school, were you like, this is it? This is what I'm going to do, get into sales? Has it always been your path or what led you here?
Yeah, totally. No, I love that question. I think I've always been wired to be good at sales sounds weird, but like it fits my personality. I'll say that. I actually I went to school for journalism
Okay.
and then I also had a big vision and dream and passion around like makeup and beauty. And so for a long time I thought, oh, I think if I could do anything, I'd love to be a makeup artist. With that being said, I also like really nice things and I'm like, I've got bills to pay. So neither
Mm.
journalism nor full-time makeup artist made sense. But what I will say about the makeup artist piece is I used to give my girlfriends in college makeovers and we would, they'd come in and hang out in my dorm room and I'd get them ready before we went out. What I always loved about that was like seeing the transformation and seeing people see themselves in a new light, which now in coaching, to me, that's what we do. That applies 100%. So it's been fun to see the through line there. But no, so when I graduated college, I did go into media sales. And part of what inspired, really a lot of what inspired She Sells was that I checked the boxes and I did everything I thought I was supposed to do to be successful in sales. And I found myself in my late 20s, top of the corporate leaderboard on the outside looking like everything was going great. And I had the house, I had a nice car. I was married to my first husband at the time. And, again, I checked the boxes, But inside, I was struggling so much.
Mm.
Anxiety, panic attacks, crippling self-doubt, eating disorder, and like everything in my life was so misaligned. So there was obviously a big personal development journey I got to go on there. What I'll say though, from a sales standpoint, is that so much of what was taught in just in all of my sales training really felt so misaligned, especially for me as a woman. There was so much that was taught around hustle and hard close and force. And so it was actually through the process of unlearning and relearning and working with amazing sort of female mentors who taught me a different way of selling and a different approach to business that I said there is a different way to sell that can actually feel good to us, especially as women, get
Mm.
better results. And so that was part of what created the inspiration behind She Sells and wanting to help as many women as possible learn that they can achieve big financial goals. They can sell in a way that feels really aligned and good to them and to their customers. And that's more fruitful as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. When you were experiencing the anxiety and the eating disorder and the panic attacks and that part of your life, were you in your 20s at that time?
I was, yeah. That was eating disorder was teens through late 20s. It was like a 10-year
Mm.
journey. But right around age 28 is when I said something's got to change with this. Yeah.
Yeah, I find it fascinating how, like, women who are in business or entrepreneurship, I guess kind of many roles really, like maybe even if you have a government job or something like that, but there's there is this really obvious transition that happens from 20s into 30s, and then I'm almost 40. I'm not there yet, but I'm sure 30s into 40s. It's like we really start to step into who we are, and everything becomes so obvious about who we aren't and who we've been trying to be. And it's if you're continuing to try and be that version of yourself that, post-secondary molded you to be, or your parents, or the first love that you met at 20, and then you continue to grow and grow, and then you have this, it can feel so incredibly uncomfortable to be in this place of, actually, that's not who I am. Everyone
Oh,
else sees me that way or thinks I am that way, but I feel like I'm becoming somebody completely different. For everyone who's listening, because I know there are people, and maybe they're not in their 20s, maybe they're 30, 40s, 50s, and they're coming to this like, uh-oh, I don't feel like who I used to be. I don't feel like the wife that my husband or spouse married, and I don't feel like the friend that my friend met years ago. And they're coming to this like cross in the roads. What would you say is something that they can do to really start to step into that power and to know that
mhm.
it's okay to walk away from people, places, experiences, even though it's going to be incredibly challenging?
Yes. Oh, I'm like getting chills while you ask this question. I think this is so good and so true. So I'll give an answer, but I'll say I remember at that time in my life when I was really coming to an awareness that so much was misaligned, I did not want to be alone with my thoughts. And I was in outside sales, so I would drive around and my territory that I covered it was like a couple of hours of driving for going and visiting a lot of my clients. And I couldn't stand just silence, like being with myself in silence, because there was this feeling inside of me that something was off. There were thoughts like that, again, so much was off, but the thought of making a change felt so overwhelming
Mm.
because it was so many different areas of my life. And that's actually how I discovered podcasts, was I was like, I need something to fill the time. And through that, I came into personal development, which I'd never really been exposed to before. And that was really actually such a blessing. But I say all of that to say I understand what it's like to be in that space where there's this knowing inside of you that there's something new, there's something next, but you're also conscious that it's going to require making some changes. And that feels really uncomfortable. And so it's funny, the core message of our brand, even though we are externally about sales, is to trust yourself, because I found that is always the right path. As uncomfortable as it may be to get still and listen, you have to get still and listen. You really do. you don't have to change everything in your life at once, but that inner voice, that knowing like that something is off, something is meant to change, that's always going to guide you in the direction of what's going to make you happiest, most successful, most fulfilled. And then I think really learning, I was talking with a client about this morning, learning to let things flow in and out of your life, whether that's people, situations, jobs, money, right? All of it. I think that when we tell ourselves the story that there's something wrong if a relationship completes or if we're released from a job, then we put ourselves through a lot of suffering we don't need to, when in reality, you came here alone, you're going to leave alone, and we're going to attract different people, different relationships, different situations throughout the course of our lives. And the people who may have been part of your life at one point or one level, those who are on a similar path will continue to probably go with you on that path. But those who aren't, it's not any judgment on them or on you if it's not aligned to go to the next place, but trusting that everyone is on their path and that people can flow in and out of your life. And I was just sharing this with a client again this morning who was releasing a team member. And what we talked about was like, if it's not working for one person, it's not actually working for the other person too, even if maybe they're not consciously aware of it, like inside they know. So having that trust and that knowing, so this is more about completing relationships, but I think having that trust and that knowing that it is ultimately best and highest good for everyone when you follow your intuition, if you can tell something needs to complete or end. And then
Mm.
you're simply making space for a new relationship, a new partnership, a new client, a new team member, a new career that's gonna be aligned for who you are now. And that's life. We got to
Absolutely.
learn to let things flow, which I understand sometimes easier said than done for those of us who are driven high achievers, maybe feel safe and controlled, but that's been a big, beautiful lesson of mine. And things always work out better that way.
Yeah. And when I hear you say that, when one person is feeling like maybe the relationship isn't working anymore, and this can be client to coach, this can be team member, this can be a personal relationship that will absolutely infiltrate itself into business. It makes me think about how in the beginning, when we started My Line Purpose, we really went through the grind of hiring, firing of VAs and social media managers. And what we found with every single conversation when it came time to say this isn't a fit, we always approached it with, how do you feel like this is going? Like, how do you
Mm,
really feel like it's going? And it gives that person on the other side the opportunity to say, yeah, this is too fast paced for me, or I feel like I can't keep up, or it's not a fit. And then releases some of the pressure of, am I the only one feeling this way? When you allow that other person to open up, and then it can be like just such a nice bless and release. Yeah, we're feeling that same way too. And so it's probably easiest if we just call it a day and go
yeah,
our separate ways.
love that.
Now, with sales, you have a seven-figure company, and part of your story is that for 10 years, you felt stuck at the same income level or revenue level in your business. Can you walk us through a bit of what that stuck feeling felt like? How
Yeah.
would you describe stuck? What did that really mean? Was it late nights? Was it frustration? Was it wanting to burn it all down? And then what truly was your tipping point into, I don't accept this level anymore?
Ooh, yeah, these are great questions. So the experience of being stuck, yeah, it felt a lot of different ways. I'll say that.
Mm.
So what I wasn't as aware of at the time that I am now is that I had a lot of limiting beliefs around money and a lot of anxiety too around money. And so that would manifest in a lot of different ways. So yeah, I was like a six-figure earner in corporate and then as an entrepreneur, even after I transitioned out of corporate and I stayed at that level for about 10 years and nothing wrong with that level. And there was a deep desire in me, excuse me, for more. to experience more, to have a more expansive life. I always just had this knowing that I was meant for something greater in life. I think a lot of us can relate to that. And money itself, we don't want to make the vision, but money is the how of the vision many times. And
Absolutely.
so it's important that we are comfortable calling in and allowing in the amount of money that's going to support us in us living that fullest expression of ourselves, whatever that is. And so for my fullest expression, it required more than the level I had been stuck at. So it felt and looked like a lot of wanting more, yearning for more, putting something on my vision board. And it would be like a monthly financial goal, and then looking at it and feeling lack and distance and guilt and shame. And I would, excuse me, we're getting over the flu in my household. I would hear people talk about, oh, I manifested my vision board, or I had this financial quantum leap. And I would just feel frustrated because I would feel like, okay, there's something, like they must be better than me. I'm doing this wrong, clearly. And so that cycle perpetuated again for a long time. Some of this was overlap with the eating disorder and anxiety. So it was all tied together. But what finally shifted it was actually when my oldest son, he's turning 5 this year, but he was 4 months at the time. And I was up late night nursing him. And I was reading a book by Bronnie Ware called The Top Five Regrets of the Dying. I don't know if you've read it or if you're familiar with it. A very powerful book. So for anyone who's not familiar, Bronnie was a hospice care worker, and she sat with people on their deathbed. And she said people about to transition out of this world have five most common regrets. And the number one regret was, I wish I had the courage to live a life true to me rather than what everyone else expected of me. And as I was reading that, there was a lot in my life that was good. I will say that I had at that point healed around the eating disorder. I had left my first husband and had remarried to my partner, Jason, who I'm married to now. And we had our first son. Like, life was good. My business was, I was still stuck at the six-figure level, but it was in many ways like
Mm.
fulfilling and successful. But I also became very conscious to how much I was hiding in my life at that point. So at that point in my business, I was working with a lot of like really top entrepreneurs, top podcasters, New York Times bestselling authors to help them build and grow their brands, which is really fun work. But I was helping other people do the things I wanted to do, really. If I was being honest with myself, I was helping them land big stages. I was helping them write best-selling books. And I was hiding behind a lot of limiting beliefs and feeling it was a lot of it was subconscious. But Nicole, I don't know if you can relate to this. I had this feeling that like someone was going to come tell me at some point that I was good enough or that it was time or basically give me permission to step into my full power. And what I realized in those moments, like late night, dimly lit room, reading this book, one of my good friends had just passed away at age 39 too, like just died in his sleep unexpectedly. I wasn't that far off from that age at that point. And I realized that no one was going to come actually give me permission to
No.
step into my power. There was no one, like the voice of God wasn't going to say it's time. There was no one who was going to come tell me I was good enough. And I think it was a mix of my friends passing and me just feeling into the brevity of life while simultaneously getting really fed up of the hiding and the stuckness and realizing like how much of my energy was spent saying I can't do this because of money or just tied up in anxiety and fear around money. And I thought, what would my life be like? And what would my life be about if this wasn't something that was holding me back anymore? And I realized it would be so much more expansive, like the things I would be doing, the things I'd be focused on, where my energy would go would be completely different. All my energy was caught up in just anxiety and fear and worry. And so I made that decision at that point. It's like, I don't know what it looks like, but I'm done playing small. I'm done hiding behind this. And I'm ready to step into the fullness of who I am and who I came here on this planet to be. And so, long story short, I think that we get a lot of opportunities to self-define in life. And I got opportunities. The universe gave me opportunities very shortly thereafter to self-define and show how committed I was
Yeah.
to expanding and to getting unstuck. And I got the opportunity to invest $50,000 in coaching for myself, which felt extremely uncomfortable, especially given where I had been stuck financially before. And
Mm.
my intuition was I needed to do it to get so out of my comfort zone that I would be forced to look at every limiting belief I had ever had about money, success, what was possible for me, and that it would, again, it felt a little bit like a do or die moment because I was also the breadwinner in our family. Felt like oh my gosh, am I putting us at risk, at jeopardy? But my intuition, my knowing was you need to do it to get out of your comfort zone and have to look at everything that you've ever thought was true about your life, about money, about success, about all of it. So that experience and kind of having my back up against a wall, investing money I frankly didn't have to kind of mirror all of the limiting beliefs I'd had. I went on this crazy journey of going down the rabbit hole with the power of the subconscious mind, learning deeply about the energy of money. Um, One of the knowings that I now have that came out of that experience was that your level of income will never exceed your level of self-worth. And
Mm.
so for over a decade, I had wanted to be a seven-figure earner. However, I didn't actually feel worthy of it. And so I got to do some really deep healing work around worthiness with that too. But what transpired was in a 6-week period from making that decision that I was done playing small, I went from having been stuck for over 10 years at the six-figure level, no matter how hard I worked, no matter what strategies I did, to 10xing and turning my annual income into my monthly income in 6 weeks. And it
Wow.
was not by doing more or working harder. It was all through the inner transformation that occurred by getting under the hood of what was actually holding me back.
Oh, so many ways that we could go, so many questions I could ask from that. My first one is because I'm in a situation right now where I say we because I do have a business partner, just I'm the host of our podcast, but myself and Kayla just invested like the most money I've ever invested into anything into a coaching program last month.
Mm,
And it feels absolutely terrifying in the very best way. And I already know it's worth it. Like, I already
yeah.
know it's worth it. And would you say that the part of you that felt like I didn't have the money to pay for a $50,000 coaching program, but did it anyway, when you look back at that, would you say it was worth it? And what was worth it?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. So it's interesting because I look back and I say, I really didn't talk to a lot of people about it. Like I just trusted my gut because I knew if I talked to anyone, they'd be like, what are you doing? It's crazy. This is a terrible move. And
Mm,
then everything that's transpired in my life ever since then wouldn't have happened. But it's just like Steve Jobs said, you can only connect the dots looking backwards. So
yeah.
intuitively, so that was one of those big moments where I got to self-define and really trust my intuition, even though it completely defied logic. I didn't even have the full 50 grand. I had enough to do a deposit on a credit card. And then I was like, all right, we're going to have to figure out the rest as we go here.
Yeah.
But my energy in it was really important, I think, because I took full responsibility for my results. And I knew that it was on me. It wasn't on my coach. It was on me to do the work to make the shifts that were going to create the different results. And so I think that's really important for anyone with a coach or with a mentor is you are investing to be in someone's energy, to receive their way of thinking, potentially, whatever it is that you're investing in there. And you are still responsible for your results, right? So having that level of ownership is so important. So I made the decision knowing, and I never said this to my mentor, but it was like, it almost didn't matter what we did together because who I knew I needed to become to even be able to figure out how to pay the rest of the coaching payment, I knew she was a different woman than I was when I started. And I was committed to being that woman for me and not for anyone else. And so 100%, like we get out of things what we put into them. So the fact that I love that you and Kayla just invested in something really stretchy,
Mm.
that's always what creates the most growth. It really is. So you all will grow and ascend way more because this is very uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like to think I will never let myself down. And
Yeah.
so if what I'm paying for a month in a coaching program is what I used to pay for a year of coaching, then I know I will rise to the occasion. I know it will allow me to get in the energy, just like you just said, of who is she, that and what programs will she come up with and what are her boundaries and her standards, because I'm not going to not make my payment, so I'm going to
Right.
figure out a way. And that's the type of woman that I am, and it sounds like it's the type of woman that you are. Now, Elyse, when you're talking about, you're sharing this story and you're like, it wasn't about the systems or the logic or anything like that. It was really this subconscious understanding that allowed you to go in 6 weeks from six figures to making in a month what you made in a year. And for people who are listening, and maybe they're finding it hard to grasp the how of that. When you look back, like you said, we can only connect the dots looking back. When you look back, what made the actual money come in that 6 weeks? So
Sure.
you shifted your subconscious thinking and your energy and obviously
Yeah.
your ability to receive. And then was it that you created new programs that brought people in, or were you more magnetic? What was the
Yeah.
how to bring in seven figures in 6 weeks?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or six figures
Um,
in 6 weeks, sorry.
so yeah, no, that's totally good. So yes, and it's funny because this is where everyone's mind goes, right? It's what did you actually do? And so did I show up differently? Yes. Did I take some different actions? Yes. And I'm happy to speak to that. What I want to first say, the biggest thing, and I teach this in our programs in our community, your results will never supersede your identity.
Mm,
So the actions that we take are always from our level of consciousness. So as a woman who had the consciousness of a six-figure earner, I was only inspired to, or I only had ideas for actions I could take that would bring in roughly $10,000 a month. That was my level of consciousness. So it was 100%. I know this because I know it sounds like a crazy story too, but I lived it. The biggest thing really was a shift into a different identity. I started to think as a woman at a different level. I started to show up more unapologetically on social media. I remember I did a video and I don't do a lot of like emotional overshares on social. It's not my vibe. Nothing wrong with that. Just not me. But I remember I did a video where I actually cried, where I like told people about what I had just done. This was right after I made the investment and I was nervous and all of that and feeling it. And to this day, people come to me and they say, "Oh my gosh, I watched that video and that's really helped me
mm,
make some big bold moves in my life." But I got so out of my comfort zone. My mentor at the time encouraged me to sing publicly on social media. And I hadn't, singing was always something I loved to do, but I hadn't sang since I'd been sexually assaulted in college. And so I opened up a TikTok at that point because I was like, no one's following me on there
yeah.
and posted a video singing. And it was like an out of body experience because I was just so out of my comfort zone with everything I was doing. From
Wow.
a tactical standpoint, I launched a program and it had been on my heart to do a program, like a group program for women for some time. But I had major limiting beliefs about, I didn't think a whole group of women would want to work with me. I'd always done one-on-one. And
Mm,
so it's funny now, given what we do and we've got a beautiful global community of women, but I did not think that could happen. So I launched that, got out hugely out of my comfort zone with marketing, promoting, inviting people to a very low tech webinar that I held to invite people to it. But that was, and the webinar wasn't perfect. I was sweating. I was nervous the day before. I was like, what am I going to say? But I spoke from the heart and I invited people to join me with something new I was launching. And that ended up being a six-figure launch. And then we did it again and again. And so, yes, was there different action? Yes. But what I will say is, it only stemmed from a different level of consciousness. And if we don't shift our consciousness first, if we don't feel worthy to receive what it is that we're desiring, we're not going to take the actions that are going to get us there. Or we're going to take the actions, but it's going to feel like hustle and grind and burnout. And we talk about in our programs connected action versus disconnected action. So I'm an Abraham Hicks person. I don't know if you're listening, but
Oh, I we went to Abraham Hicks last fall. We took ourselves down
oh
to
my
Arizona
gosh.
to see Abraham live as a celebration for crossing our first seven figures in our business. We were like, we're
Yes.
going to Abraham.
That is the best $1 million celebration ever. I love
It was
that.
so good.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So then you probably know, I love the analogy that they use of a lot of people when they're taking action. It's like they're trying to vacuum the living room, but the vacuum's not plugged in, right? So they're just rubbing it all over the carpet, but nothing is happening. And that is disconnected action. And that's what's happening when we're like, okay, I'm doing the right things, but why are the results not coming in? It's because you haven't plugged in your vacuum cleaner. So I say all of that to say that it was the process of going deep and releasing the limiting beliefs and learning to rewire my brain as a woman who operated at a higher level. Then from there, different actions flowed through. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
So good. Sales, women, money, limiting beliefs. Like this is so much of the work that we do as well. And it's so fascinating how you can remove a limiting belief. Like you can truly remove it. You can flip it, reverse it, feel like, okay, I believe the opposite to this now. I feel empowered. And then a new one finds its way. A new one finds its way. You get
Yep.
a new level, new devil. And one of the limiting beliefs that I notice myself come up against at new levels, it appears for me at a new level each time, is when we go to raise our prices. I start to create a story of I don't know people as if I know all 8 billion people in the world. I don't know people who would pay for that. And it's like,
Mm.
when we first started, ran a little tiny micro mastermind when we first started, and it was $7.99. And I was like, I don't know anybody that would pay $7.99 for just coaching. And then we moved into increasing our amount. And then on the flip side of that, it's like, here I am. And we just signed up to this $60,000 mastermind US. So for Canadians, it's we might as well double
Living
that.
right.
Yeah. And I would pay that. And I know there's coaches out there who charge 60, 80, 100 plus $1,000 a year to work with them. And I know people pay that and I know people charge that. But it's so interesting how my sneaky belief will show up at each stage. If we up our
Mm.
price, right now, upping our price for our one-to-one offer, and we only take three one-to-one clients. And I have this belief of, had this belief of people won't pay for that. And then we post it and then somebody signs up right away. And boom.
Love
But
it.
it's just so fascinating how awareness is key. Being aware that as long as I continue to believe that I know everybody and their money situation, and
Mm.
that how could I know that people would want to pay for me, I'm holding myself back.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Can we talk about it? Because I
Yeah,
think
let's talk about it. And
let's talk about it.
what are the common limiting beliefs that you hear when you're supporting women with sales?
Yeah. Wow. So we just talked about this on one of our group calls this week
Mm.
about imposter syndrome and women were having it come up around raising their rates. And so there's so much about this. What do we want to say? To your point, I do think so. We'll just pull in Abraham in this because I love that.
Please do.
So, as they say, contrast lives at the edge of your next level, right? So, I think to say, okay, I'm going to call in higher price clients or more revenue this year, and I'm not expecting any limiting beliefs or I'm not expecting to need to evolve or change. That's not really how it works. So, I look at the new limiting beliefs as, okay, good, this means I'm growing. So a new level of me gets to evolve and emerge. And I don't think we're ever done on that journey, and that's okay. With raising our rates, what I have found and what I believe is that when you are no longer an energetic match for what you used to charge, if you don't raise your rates to what you really want to charge, and what feels good to you to for an exchange, then your sales are going to slow down. Like you have to, I had this happen last year where it was like, so like my year-long private is a six-figure investment. And I knew that 100,000 was too low for someone. It just didn't feel good to me anymore. I bumped it to 150. But then I was like, I'm not taking another client less than 150 for the year-long private. And then it was the end of the year. And I was like, I was talking to someone about it who was pretty much a done deal. And I was like, you know what? It's the end of the year. My rate officially goes up January 1st. But this was after I had said, I'm not taking another client at the six-figure level. So I offered him my old rate. The whole thing like fell through last minute. And
Mm.
I know what it was. I know energetically it was because I was trying to go back
Right.
to where I was versus what I had actually, like what I knew in my soul
And what you
was right in the
recalibrate it
line.
to.
I recalibrated that. Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's not a huge difference between where it was, but I just knew energetically, like that is what it feels good to me right now to receive for someone to be in my energy for a full year. If you don't raise your rates or you're not confident about it, or you try to go back and offer what you were doing before, it won't work. It just
Right.
won't. And then I think to your point, and you said it, but I'll just echo it and maybe say it a different way. We have to notice when are we creating money stories for other people? And this
Mm.
is a common thing. This like what you said, you're like, look, I just invested 60 grand in myself, and yet there's part of me that's like wondering, are there clients out there who will do that to work with me? Absolutely, but you've got to believe it, right? So just noticing, where am I creating stories where I'm thinking that a certain amount is a lot, or I'm like putting money rules or beliefs on other people. And in reality, there's a lot of clients out there where if something isn't enough, they don't think it's any good and they're not going to buy it.
Mhm.
Right. So you get to decide, like even my husband last night, he was telling me about a TV. We just bought a new home and he loves Costco. He's a Costco person. I'm like, whatever, it
So
doesn't
does
matter.
my husband. He's probably there right now, if I'm being
So
honest.
he's fine.
He's gonna message me any minute and say, "What all do I need to get?" And I'll be like, "Egg whites, the chicken,
Yeah, here you
whatever
go.
other things you pick up on your like multiple weekly trips to Costco."
Yes. Oh my gosh. I feel like it's a revolving door. So he had found this TV there, and it's like it was a cheap TV, and he was excited about it. I was like, why would we? That can't be any good at that price. Please don't look at that anymore. There's a lot of, and it's a silly example, but there's a lot of buyers out there who want to buy your programs, your type of programs and services. And if it's not enough, they're not going to think it's any good.
A hundred
You know?
percent.
And it's all relative. I remember I heard a couple of years ago, one of my mentors told me about a hypnotherapist who charges 1 million a year to work with her, and she has a wait list. I was like, oh, okay, I could probably charge six figures.
Yeah,
That's gonna be okay. So it's all relative.
it really is. And it's not that it's not that one is good or bad or right or wrong. Again, it's about what you're attracted to. Do I
Yes.
want to go buy my groceries at the dollar store? No. I catch me in Whole Foods. But
Yep.
if you want to buy your groceries at the dollar store, it's there. It exists. It has things for sale because there are people who will shop there, who want that, who are vibrate at that level, and who, I guess, enjoy the energy of walking into the dollar store. Not me. And so, thankfully, there's somewhere in Canada, everything is limited, flights and grocery stores. But so let's just say Whole Foods is the cream of the crop. There's a very different energy when you walk through the aisles of Whole Foods than there
Yes.
is walking through the aisles of the dollar store. Like that just can't be argued.
There, yes, 100, 100%. And
Yeah,
here's the other thing I'll say too is like you can have money but still be in scarcity consciousness.
for
So there's
sure.
plenty of people who have money, and I know many of them, many in my life, but who are like will only shop dollar store because they're in scarcity and lack consciousness. So it's an inner consciousness first. And to your point, like I'm a Whole Foods woman as well. Our husbands can go to Costco, we'll go to Whole Foods, it'll be all
Yeah,
good. It's just about what is vibrationally aligned for you. And I think about like the experience. And again, it's like worthiness to me. And we didn't grow up quite that way. We grew up like coupons and deals and how can we save money in any way possible. But I have learned that I care for things in my life to be aligned and to feel good and to feel aligned. And so I like to shop at places that feel good and feel aligned for me. And it's no judgment on anyone else. It's just knowing yourself and knowing that the environment you're in has a vibration and has an energy, and it's either going to uplift you or it's going to drain you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and shopping based off of your values as well.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Elise, before we start to get into what's for sale, what do you have going on, where can people find you? I'm curious to know, you have accomplished a lot already. And what's the next big magic wand moment? If we were to touch base again in a year and you came back and said, "Oh my gosh, this is what I experienced, this is what happened." What's next on the dream list?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I'm excited about this. So we've done a lot of new things as a company in the past year. We launched a consultant certification. That's been really fun and a beautiful experience and something that was on my heart to do. And where I'm really feeling called to go now. So we're still going to continue doing what we're doing and growing and expanding the coaching division. But I am so lit up about launching a media division. And so we're in that process right now. We are going to be launching a magazine that highlights and
Oh,
promotes specifically female entrepreneurs and women in sales, which I'm completely pumped about because I get to go back to my makeover days from college that I told you
yes,
about and do the photo shoots and all the things. So I'm thrilled about that. And I also am just really excited to highlight and profile amazing women doing amazing things in the business world. So we'll have to connect about that for you when the
for sure.
magazine comes out. And then we are also in the early stages of launching a podcast network. So
Cool.
my brand and yeah, I'm super excited about it. We live it we, I guess the best way to explain it, I don't know if we've created a new niche or what, but there's a lot of people who understand, and no doubt you do, Nicole, given what you've shared. There's beautiful thought leadership out there in the world of science and spirituality. You think about Dr. Joe Dispenza, Bruce Lipton, a lot of great leaders in that space. And what we do with our work is we add in another S, another layer, it's sales. So we kind of live at the intersection of sales and business, science and spirituality. And so we are putting together and launching this network to amplify and highlight other voices in this space. And
Mm.
so there's a lot we're doing behind the scenes around that right now, but those are the things. So I'm excited and lit up, and it feels like a new chapter, but something that's very, very
And baby on the way.
baby is due in just about a month. So
Wow.
we could,
You're gonna have a little Aries baby.
no. Are you an Aries?
I
Are
am.
you? I love that. I love that. Yeah, we don't have an Aries. My mother-in-law's an Aries, but we don't have an Aries in our immediate family.
Little trailblazer.
I feel like she's so powerful. I can feel it already. And I'm excited. Yeah, I'm really excited.
That's so good. And look at the vision you're casting for your kids and your
Mhm.
family and the people around you. I love that. I heard somebody, I can't quite remember who now, maybe Ed Milet is the one who said this, that we're all out here saying to our kids, like, you can be and do and have whatever you want. But the last thing you want is your kid to look up at you and say, "Why aren't you?" And so, like, you are living that. You left the marriage that didn't feel good. You're with the person who he's your ride or die at Costco. And you've got your dogs and your kids and your business and your belief in energy. And so yeah, it's like really setting the stage for the next generation. And I think that is so important.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you so much. That means a lot. And I do think that it's whether we're a parent or we have nieces, nephews, younger folks in our life, like they look not so much to what you say, but what you do. And so for anyone who says, I can't pursue my purpose or my dream because of my kids or this or that, it's like you have to model that for them. You have to show them what that looks like. And I believe that our kids choose to come through us for a reason. That's my personal belief. No one else has to believe that, but they
Yeah.
are choosing you so that they can see something different model. They want to see how you live your life. So yeah, so thank you for
Oh,
that. I received
yeah,
that
you're
and
so
appreciate
welcome.
that. Yeah.
Okay,
Mm.
let's tell everyone what you've got going on, where can they find you, and for everyone who's listening, whether you're driving or you're busy, it'll all be linked in the show notes. But yeah, tell us what's happening.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Yeah, no, I so appreciate that, Nicole, and I appreciate this opportunity too. So, one thing, if I can offer, we have a free training that listeners could go into to learn more about the process of quantum leaping your sales. So, ElyseArcher.com/four quadrants, and you can let us know there too that you came in from My Aligned Purpose. There's a spot for that. And that is a beautiful deep dive training into a method we teach called the four quadrants of quantum sales growth, where I reverse engineered what happened where I got unstuck for being stuck so long and 10x so fast. So that training will teach you how to do that. And then, yeah, we've got a lot of beautiful things going on. We've got a live event coming up in July here in Portland, Maine, which,
Amazing.
depending on when someone looks at my website, that will be linked on the site. So everything is at elisearcher.com.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm at Elyse Archer on all social. We have a beautiful community, coaching programs, mastermind, all the things. But please just connect. Let us know that you came in from Nicole and the podcast, and super happy to just help support in any way we can anyone who wants to grow and quantum leap their sales and their life. So yeah,
Mm.
thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Elise, for being here and for sharing your story. And yeah, I am big on energy, and you do have a really beautiful energy. And when I was diving into your stuff, I was like, oh, me and this woman, we're going to hit it off. I
I
know
feel
that we believe in a lot of the same things and
yeah.
value many of the similar things. Thanks for being here and sharing with everyone. And yeah, go check it out. Sales. uh, my belief is if your business is making sales, hurrah, amazing. If it's not, then that's the first leak that you want to solve in your business. You can try and do all the lead gen and marketing and messaging, but if you're not bringing cash in the door, we've got a hobby and we don't want a hobby, we want a business. Go learn from Elise, check out the four quadrants, follow along the podcast, and yeah, say
Mm.
hi. Thank you.
Thank you again. This was so fun. I so just enjoyed the conversation and connecting. You're amazing. I appreciate you.